Welcome back. You're listening to Tuttle Talk here on the Real Estate Radio Network. I'm here in the staging special here on the back half of the show with Colleen Frost, one of the top agents in DFW, also has experience as being a stager. So you're going to get a twofer with Colleen. Colleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Andy.
Free Staging Realty, isn't that right?
Correct.
The name of your group, your team, your company, if you will, within a company?
Yes.
Okay, and you're over with Halo Group Realty, the brokerage, right?
Yes.
Over here with Lars Lofstrand. Happily
yes.
with Lars. We just did a great segment on Coach's Corner on time and saving time and how important it is. And what's so exciting is one of the things you do is help save people time. Mm-hmm. Not waste time on the market, having their house sit there because it's not staged correctly. Yep. So I can't wait to talk about that. But also, it doesn't matter how beautiful the inside is. If your curb appeal is disgusting, who's going to come and see it? They're going to be like, ugh, I don't know about that. Now, you can look online and stuff. People driving by your house, not going to see that, not going to want to see it. So we've got Marc, Funderburker. I messed your name up.
Funderburk.
Funderburk, excuse me. Marc Funderburk. I don't know why I wanted to say Funderburker, but Funderburk. Marc Funderburk. It's a crazy cool name. I love it. Has been in the landscaping business for 30 years, and he is the president of Land Patterns.
Yes.
Website's landpatterns.com.
Yes.
And he's got experience in residential and commercial about what makes your house look disgusting and why people don't want to walk in, and what are some of the little tiny things you can do to make your landscape pop so that people are drawn to it and want to come in and see your beautifully staged home, because you're going to know how to do that after this show. So I'm very excited about this. Let's buckle in and get ready to go. During this segment, if you want to reach out to us during or after the show, you can reach us at our off-air hotline, 469-319-0660, 469-319-0660. And, of course, you can catch this show and all past shows at andytuttle.com. Marc, I think it's important that we just start with the outside, because that's what people see when they drive up and they're driving neighborhoods, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the curb appeal. It's just like you look at a book, and if the cover is really interesting, you're going to at least pick it up. It may not be a good book, but you're going to pick up the book and start to engage with the book. And the same with the landscape. That's going to tell you, okay, I'd like to be here. This place really rocks. So if it looks good, if it has color, if it's proportional to the house, then you're going to go in.
Now, Colleen, on the inside of things, or do you also let people know, are you mentioning, hey, you need to get this curb appeal set up too, I would imagine, yes?
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, I have a statistics that over 90% of the buyers look at homes found on the internet first. So the pop of color is important, because when you have the home professionally photographed, you do want it to be proportionate to the home, and you do want to have that pop of color so that you get that call for that buyer's agent to show your property.
That's very good, because we're very visually stimulated, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And so we understand what looks good and what doesn't, and we just kind of get an intuition these days, isn't it? Like, nah, I don't want that. So, Marc, in your experience, extensive experience, what are the biggest mistakes that you see most sellers make?
Well, most sellers will over-landscape, and you want to keep the landscape very simple. You want to keep the shrubs and the trees and the ground covers proportionate to the house so that it looks like it goes with the house. A lot of people just let it get out of hand, and by the time they go to sell the house, the landscape has taken over the house and really can't see the house. So you need to make sure that the landscape is designed properly so that it matures with the house. And then you need to make sure that you have focal points in the house that draws people's eye to the house and to the entry and everything else, so that you have a real nice presentation.
So I also think maybe the X and Y generation think this way. Isn't it also true when you over landscape? It just looks like a lot of work to maintain.
That's exactly right. And most people today do not want to maintain a landscape on their weekends. They want to do different things. They want to go skydiving or race car driving or whatever. They don't want to spend a lot of time manicuring shrubs or pruning trees. They'll let somebody else do that. So it needs to be very simple but very sublime in its expression.
So, Colleen, when you are walking, because you're also a real estate agent, so not only do you help them stage, but you're also showing people property, showing buyers, having your team show the buyers, and you're helping with the sellers to sell the home. Mm-hmm. When you see some of these mistakes getting done, how do you help your client get over that?
Well, one thing I just was going to say to Marc was I think that you are such an asset to realtors also, because you want to make sure that the seller of the home hires a professional landscaper to make sure the shrubs are cut back at the right proportion, because I actually listed a home and the sellers, they actually took too much. And when I got there, the wife was upset with the husband, and she called it crepe murder because he took those crepe myrtles that had taken like 15 years to grow. So it's really important to hire a professional.
So that's a big point, though, right? Because people will think, I'll just do it myself. I'll save the money.
Right.
But in fact, you may not save the money.
That's correct. You'll probably end up spending more money if you do it yourself. You want somebody who has a practiced eye that'll look at your landscape, look at your house, and say, this is what we need to do to increase your curb appeal and make your house really pop. All too often, they'll go out and they'll spend lots and lots of money. It's like trying to get your house fixed up to sell, and you spend thousands and thousands of dollars remodeling the interior when you're never going to get it back. You want to spend your money wisely, and the way to do that is hire a professional. Okay,
so you hire a professional, and let's get through this. And you guys throw out, and Colleen and Lars, throw out some questions here, too, because you got experience in the field. You're both realtors as well. So my question that pops to me is, all right, if I'm a homeowner, I'm going to sell my house, I'm already thinking, if we're just talking through this, well, gosh, even though it's not true, there's still a struggle of the realtor, the cost, the seller, man, I'm at 6% or whatever it is, 5-6%. I got to pay that. I got transfer taxes. I got all this stuff. I want to make sure I got enough equity in my property. Boy, it just seems like all the costs are adding up, so they get concerned. So realistically, when a homeowner is out there and maybe they don't know if they want to sell, they may want to just do the landscape and live in the house.
That's true.
What's the kind of process that they go through to find out if this is something that's for them?
Well, they call a landscape architect or designer to come out and consult with them, and they need to give that person a program of what they're trying to do, whether they're going to stay in the house or whether they're going to live in the house for a longer period of time. And a true professional will be able to tell you that, okay, your house is sellable or it's not sellable, and what you can get for it with the landscape that you're going to be putting in. So the key, again, is to start with the planning process and then to work with the designer to produce the landscape that's going to allow them to achieve what they're trying to achieve, either sell it or live in it. But you need that advice.
And it's possible to do that on a budget, right? You can cut everything down and keep it clean and simple and do it on a budget. You can work with that.
That's correct. You do need to establish a budget, and a good professional will tell you what your budget needs to be.
Okay. So you're a good professional. I'm so happy to have you here. We're so lucky since you are a good professional. So before we go to break, are there a couple of tips that you can give the sellers if they are thinking about, because you talk about these things in general, which means, okay, you need to do some things that make certain parts of your house pop. You need to make it where your landscape fits your house. Well, people may not understand that. I have a neighbor that she over landscapes like crazy because she thinks it's beautiful and she got all these beautiful colors, but she may not understand. She may think that her landscape is proportional to the house. How do you broach? What are some tips? Some rules of thumb that a seller could follow before they get into this to make sure that their landscape curb appeal does pop?
Well, one of the best things is to have have color at key points in the landscape so that it draws the person's eye into the house and to look at the house. The other thing is to have clean lines in the landscape so it doesn't look so cluttered. If you do that, then you're going to invite people into the house. And what you want to do with that curb appeal is to get a potential buyer to walk into the house. And once you get them into the house, then it's the realtor and it's the house's job to sell the house.
Colleen, Lars, any other questions?
No, I was just going to say, he said the word clutter. So I have a statement that I always say to all of my listings, that clutter eats equity. So, and as far as you were talking about a budget and how much to spend, I have a stat from HomeGain.com that sellers who spend $500 on staging recover over 343% of that cost when they sell their home. And I offer it for free. I do a front to back, top to bottom analysis, so it costs them nothing. And then it's going to cost them money if they need things like landscaping or new carpet or something like that. But they will get that investment back over and over again, and they're going to sell it faster, which means they're not going to have
twice as fast, I believe.
Yeah, they're. I mean, from March to the second week of August, every home that I sold had a multiple offer on it. There wasn't one home that didn't, because we sell. We stage them and they look professional, and they're gone.
Guys, all homes aren't moving like hotcakes in this market. Ready to move in homes are moving like hotcakes. That's why you got to have the curb appeal. You got to have the inside. So, you're listening to Tuttle Talk. I want you to write down this number. I want you to text if you want a budget analysis. I want to see about what the cost is and find out, do you want to sell? Do you want to live here? Wherever you're at in that process, and you want to find out, you want to get that landscaping done, you want to text the words curb appeal to 469-319-0660. We'll get you at a free budget analysis so you can find out what kind of that cost is, what investment is it going to take, because it really is an investment in your home and in the sellability of that home in the future. So 469-319-0660. and we will text the word curb appeal to that number, and we'll get you out the information that you need. And you can also always go to landpatterns.com.
That's correct.
.com. Marc, thank you so much. In the next half of our show, so stay with us, Marc. Coming up here in the last segment of the show, we're going to get to the inside of your home with Colleen Frost, professional stager. She's also a realtor now, and she does the staging, like you said, for free. It's a huge value. If you're already recovering 343% of it by investing $500, what kind of it's an exponential, infinite amount of gain by doing it with a realtor that provides it within the package. It's a unique offering. She's going to show you some tips how to stage your home next. Welcome back to Tuttle Talk here on the Real Estate Radio Network. We've been talking with our staging and curb appeal team here, teaching you, the seller, how to make sure that your landscape is perfectly positioned for you to sell at the top dollar and sell quickly. Marc, it was great you sharing that stuff, that great information. And in fact, I'm going to have you back because we're going to talk about one of the things we didn't get to today, which is that if you do want to stay in the home, how to make sure that your landscape, you were bringing this up during the break, how to make sure your landscape is usable, right?
That's right.
Wow, you got an invitation back already.
I know.
I'm going to hold my breath.
You are. You better hold that. Don't do it this whole thing. It's not a David Blaine episode. You're watching too much David Blaine. Colleen is going to hold her breath through the rest of this show. So it's going to be weird when I ask you a question, but do your best to answer it through a mumble. So going inside the house. So your specialty, Colleen, you've been you're a realtor. You're one of the top realtors around right now, but you've also had experience being a stager. You're a professional stager before you did this, right?
Correct. Certified, yep.
Yeah. So you now offer this and stage for free, basically, for your throw it into the package.
But it's better than that.
Oh, it's better than that?
Yeah, so I will, I call myself, I'm not a romantic realtor, so I will literally come into a listing appointment once you sign the exclusive right to sell. Mm-hmm. I will do a full staging analysis, front to back, top to bottom, but I would say probably 70% of my homes need new flooring, new carpet, because people, they have pets and kids in life.
Right.
And so I have my trades license, so 70% of my homes will get carpet in them, and they get that at wholesale when you work with Colleen Frost.
Whoa, that's a huge deal.
It is, yeah.
So let's see here. And then speaking of being in the break here, you were telling me a story during the break of how this really plays out. So share with our audience the story.
Yeah, so that stat that I had just given from Home Gain about how you recover 343% of your cost. And I was just thinking this past week, I was getting ready to list a home, and we were going to list it at $220. We ended up putting new carpet and new tile in it, about $3,500 worth in a couple of the rooms.
Which a seller may go, whew, that's a big investment there.
It was, yeah. And I also, one more thing is I also will, at cost, I pick up the bill, I will paint 2 of your rooms for free. So I work with a painter, and so I also paint two rooms.
Nobody's doing this, guys.
So, and I pay for that, get the carpet at wholesale. So I ended up, after they put the new flooring and had a couple of the rooms painted, I said, you know what, let's list it at $230. And we got a cash offer in a day. And
hello,
at list.
I say that's almost. Well, I guess it's 250%. That's a huge gain. Yeah. And you, instead of having to wait around for a month to figure out where they were going to live or whatever, or 2 or 3 months to sell it, it's sold cash in a day.
Yeah.
That speaking of time that we've been talking about, that's the most precious asset you have. That gives you a ton of that back, guys. And so that's something that you should not overlook. So, Colleen, speaking of staging, because a lot of people just, do you find that sellers resist that at first? Is that a difficult conversation to have with the seller?
Yeah, it's difficult. It is a challenge to go in and tell people that they have to take down their children's pictures, their grandchildren's pictures. But I promise them that I'm going to get them to close a lot quicker, and I'm going to get them that much more money. And, hey, we're moving. I'm going to have you out of here in 30 days anyhow, so why don't we just box it all up? And I have a distributor that I get all of my boxes at a discount from a wholesaler, and all they have to do is make those phone calls, and I'll have them to close. And so it is a challenge, but I think a lot of people are now calling me because they know I have tough love, and I actually interview a lot of my clients and put them on my YouTube channel. And one of them, they fired their agent and called me, and they said, we hired you because you told us the things that nobody else would.
That's a big deal. You can have somebody that's what do you call it? Kiss butt or whatever for the station.
That's powerful. That's a time saver right there.
That's a time saver, man.
Well, here's something, if I can come in with something from a psychological point of view. We use our 5 senses to buy. This is why staging is so important, both inside and out of the home. And I'll start from the bottom, but we buy based on a percentage with our 5 senses. So touch, 1% of touch determines what we buy, 1% through taste, 3% through smell. So smell has a greater influence on your buying decision than taste and touch. But here are the big ones, 11% of what we hear. So what somebody tells you about the home, but how's this one on site? In other words, what the house looks like. 83% of your decision to buy is based on what you see.
Whoa. Well, I think if that doesn't prove the case for why you need to have great curb appeal.
That's right.
And a photogenic home, if you will, right? A photographic home, because that's where they're getting their first impression. And Laura, psychologically, that first impression is huge, right?
Huge.
That's where everything else is based on. We just justify that first impression now with everything else. That's how our brain works.
Exactly.
And so if you had the good first impression with the curb appeal, you go inside or you see the pictures online and it's staged correctly, then you already have you already like the home. You're already way ahead of the game. And then everything else that they do in that home is just going to justify it. It makes the buyer's job easier. So Colleen, and this is so big because I know it's difficult for a realtor because I've had other stagers on this home on the show, and they talk about how the realtors love getting it over to them because they don't want to be the bad guy, because then it's like, well, you're a jerk. I don't want to use you. You telling me I got to take down all my pictures and repaint my beautiful, pink plaid room. What's wrong?
Right. Yeah, I'll go through and I call it with buyer's eyes. And so, like you were saying, 12% see it visually. That means that 88% can't look past the clutter, the imperfection.
83%, see it visually.
Yeah.
Right?
No, what is it?
83%.
83% is visual.
Is visual, yeah.
Right.
So that 83% can't see past the imperfections, the clutter, the dirt. So I have to go in and tell you to box everything up and let's get this moving so I can get you to close. So yeah, it is. That's what I used to do. Is I was a stager prior, and people would hire me because the agents they know what has to be done, but it's hard to be good cop, bad cop. So. But I'm happy to
And
do
there,
it.
Colleen makes a good point. I'll see with my wife, when we go look at a place, we've looked at places before when we've bought. And I remember this one place in particular, it wasn't very clean and it wasn't very done up nicely. And she went and looked at it and said, no, I'll never buy this place. And we didn't. But we went back when it was done up. Somebody had done it up. And she was like, wow, I can't believe we didn't buy this place. So as Colleen says, some people just can't get past, what they see.
That's right. And especially if it's 83% of your kind of opinion on that place, you can see it visually. Guys, that's the point right there. So here's the deal. It's not, you've got to remember that you have a product on the market when you're selling that home, and you've got to separate it. Nobody does that better than Colleen. That's why she is doing so well in her business. And it's hard to do, but it's important that you hear it. The buyer wants to see themselves in their house. They don't want to see your kids. They want to see their kids. You got to give them a blank slate. If you want to know how to do that and you want the 5 do's and don'ts of staging, text the word stage to 469-319-0660.